So, ladies and gentlemen, I've come, to the end of my presentation today, and it's really been an amazing opportunity for me to present to each and every one of you. But you see, I want to introduce this very amazing, individual who's an astute leader. He's just one of the best that we have in our business today. And I feel so blessed and so proud to call him my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I've known this amazing gentleman now for about 4 years, and we've watched each other grow in wisdom, in so much knowledge of this industry. And I feel proud and opportune every time I have to introduce him. So to take us on the special training, it gives me great joy to bring to the virtual stage right now my friend, my brother, Mr. Nicholas Reynolds. Nick, take it away.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Team Rise and guests. Thank you so much for the kind words, Pastor Joshua. Phenomenal training. Every time I see those numbers, I don't understand every number, but it gets me excited. The numbers actually do make sense. And I'm so proud to be part of this amazing team with some amazing leaders. And I just want to give the respect back to all of the people who presented tonight, and especially our 3 co-founders, Liju, Ahmed, and Asad. We love them. They're dear friends of ours, and we're just so excited about the future with Nexarise. So well done, every single one of you, for being through this training for the last hour or so. I'm just going to be sharing for about 10-15 minutes with you a very, very important topic, and I really want you to take some notes. So if you've got a pen and a paper, grab it right now. If you haven't, please grab a pen and a paper right now, or at least be ready to take some video clips, some screenshots, so that you can retain some of this information, because if you can ink it, you can think it. So I'm Nicholas Reynolds, and I'm in Nexarise, and I'm building a success story. And I'm going to teach you tonight about a very important topic that's very close to my heart: sharing your opening story in the most effective way. You see, if you go onto the YouTube, not now, but you'll see our co-founder and president, Liju Thomas, CEO of Nexarise, Liju Thomas. He did a training on how to present the business. And he shared this framework for presenting an effective business presentation. Okay. He said, you start with a heart story, then you give their content for the head, 3 or 4 points, the learning. Then you give one piece of action and finish with an emotional heart story. So I'm not doing that training repeat. I'm going to zoom in on the first opening heart story, building a connection. You see, you have a story to tell, and the purpose of your story is to connect with your prospect, connect with your audience. Tonight, we're on the Zoom call. We have the Zoom stage. What an amazing platform this is. We have an opportunity to connect with people literally around the world. Every day, I'm presenting the business to people. Every day, I'm helping my team to build. And it gives me a great joy to speak to them and share the story that I've been on, but also the story of what Nexarise is doing. So let's begin. I believe you have a story to tell, every single one of you, and that story will change lives. Do you believe you have a story? Because when you believe that your story changes lives, you're going to commit every single day, not just to getting good at telling that story, but you're going to commit to telling that story every single day. You're not going to save that story for special events or once a year. You're going to commit to telling that story every single day. Now, the first thing we have to do is to learn how to tell your story in the most effective way. You have a great story to tell. You have a story that will change lives, but you need to tell it in a compelling way. You see, most of us on this call tonight, and all of the presenters here and the presenters that you'll meet, we're not professional speakers, okay? So let's get into the first part. There's 3 parts. The first part of the story is, what was your life like before the change happened? Before you joined Nexarise, before you got started with the mentoring and the training program that we're on tonight, what was your life like before? In the best stories, you're going to get this down to 60 seconds. And in the very best stories, you're going to break it down into the three biggest things, the three biggest characteristics. Okay. So you see, great stories don't take 20 minutes to tell. They don't have 16 components. The first thing you should know about a great story is that they're simple. Simple to tell, which means they're simple to listen to and simple to remember. So I want you to think, what was your life like before coming into Nexarise? For many of you, you're brand new in Nexarise, so it's like you're already there. Life hasn't changed that much, but your vision, your expectancy for the future has changed because of Nexarise, we hope. And some of you here are guests. You're about to see the shift happen. So let me give you some examples. I'll use some examples from my life. Okay, here we go. So what was my life like before? Well, I was a design and technology school teacher, and I was also a photographer. One, I was employed. I was working for a boss and he set my hours. Two, in that pressurized school environment, I actually was becoming more and more negative. And I often found myself teaching children that didn't want to learn. And I was literally, like the other teachers, counting the weeks until the next holiday. And three, getting promoted was rare. And it required competing with others in my own department. And that was quite stressful. I just didn't see myself doing that job for the next 40 years of my life. So what was life like before? Three characteristics. And you have 60 seconds to get that message across. So make sure you've written down 1, 2, 3, what was life like before? And now we get to the pivot. What was the pivot? You see, after you have the before, you're ready for part two, the pivot. When your life changes, when it goes from before to after, before to now, from bad to good. So what caused the pivot? Did you attend a meeting? Did you find the right company? Did you find a mentor? Did you lose your job, which forced you to look at other ways to make money? Did a friend make an invitation? What was the pivot? You should be able to tell your pivot in about 30 seconds. So write it down. This is when your story changes. This is when things go from bad to good. This is when the emotional line of your story changes. What is your pivot? This is really, really, really powerful. So you start with your before, so 60 seconds, three characteristics, and then you hit the pivot. That's when things change. You say things like, then my life changed. A friend of mine invited me over to his house for a cup of tea to meet a very successful businessman who shared with me some vision information which opened up my eyes to see the possibilities of making residual income using my spare time. Maybe for you, it was, then I was asked to watch a video. I got invited to a meeting. I watched something on social media, whatever it is, keep it simple. Simple so they can learn it and simple so they can remember it. And third, which brings us to the final part of telling a compelling story. All stories have three parts. Great stories. It's great. Even my pastor, he preached a sermon today. He had 3 points. 3 points, simple to remember, simple to learn. So here we go. So you've got a before, a pivot, and what I like to call the now or the after. What is your life like now? What is your life like after? In the best stories, you're going to do this in 60 seconds or less. And in the very best stories, you're going to take the three characteristics that you mentioned in the before, and you're going to change them. They're going to match up. So let's give you some examples, and I'm going to use my examples. You can write down your own in your own time. So now I'm an independent business owner with Nexarise. Before I was employed, I was working for a boss, but now I'm self-employed. I'm my own boss and I have the freedom to work when I want and where I want. 2, Before, I worked in a pressurized school environment, teaching children. Now I'm building a successful business with an amazing team in a positive and winning environment. I'm teaching adults who are hungry to learn. And third, before getting promoted in my job, it was very rare and it required competing with others. Now promotions are frequent. You heard some tonight, and it's the result of teamwork. We rise by helping others to rise. So, summary. Let's summarize. That's the perfect story. The story only has 3 parts. Most people overcomplicate this. If you overcomplicate your story, if your story has all these ups and downs and your story has all these bad things happen one after another, you're not alone. Lots of people struggle to tell their story. Yet get good at doing this in 3 minutes or less. You get good at a very simple before, pivot, and after. Here's what I know. I know that if your before describes the life of the people you're in front of. So I'm talking to somebody, for example, and when I describe my before, when I list those 3 characteristics about what my life was like before, that should match their life right now. I'll know this works because they'll be nodding their head like this. Okay, they'll be leaning in. I'll know this worked because they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's me. How did you know? Were you listening in through my Alexa last night? Were you at the dinner table with my spouse? Because my wife and I, we were talking about this last night. How did you know? So if you get the before right, the person in front of you will be nodding. It doesn't matter if you're on Zoom. It doesn't matter if you're at Starbucks. It doesn't matter if you're in front of 50 people. If you get the before right, then they're nodding their heads. They are leaning in. You've got their attention. And then the second thing you need to get right is that your after has to be their dreams. It has to be their aspirations. It has to be what they want. And I'm telling you this, if your before describes their life now and your after describes what they want, they will do anything for that pivot. They're going to show up at meetings. They're going to come early in the morning. They'll stay late at night. They'll watch the videos you send them. They'll listen in on the calls. They'll come on these training webinars week after week. They'll do anything you want to get that pivot. Now I'm going to just quickly, as I wrap things up, I'm going to share 2 things, 2 ways in which you could get this wrong, okay? So listen close. One way you can get this wrong is you can describe your life right now. You can say things like, well, right now I can't pay my bills, I'm struggling, I don't have any extra money, life is hard, I'm working crazy hours, I'm even having to sell my kids' toys to have food on the table. Okay, that's not my life right now, thank God. But if the person you're talking to is like, well, none of that resonates with me, then you've missed. Your pivot isn't going to be an effective pivot. The second way you could get this wrong is if your after is not what they want. So if you're after something like, well, now I've got 3 cars, I've got 2 houses, I fly private jets, I'm going on holiday every month. And they're going to be like, well, that's not really what I want at all. All I really want is send my kids to college and give some money to my church and my favorite charity. Then you missed. And that's not good. So what I'm saying here is it's really important that you know the person or the group that you're talking to. Whenever I present the business, I always ask them some questions. I say, before I tell you a little bit about myself, tell me a little bit about yourself. Or I ask my business partner, tell me a little bit about this friend. Oh, okay. They're a work colleague. They're doing 3 jobs. They're a chef. They're this, they're that. Okay. So when you know the person you're talking to, match your before to them. If they're a single mom and you're a single mom, tell that story. If they're struggling financially and you were struggling financially, then tell that story and then match your after to them as well. Know what motivates them. Find out what they want in life. What are their hopes and dreams? What would they do if they didn't have limited money? What would they do if their time wasn't so restricted? Find out those things, ask questions, show that you care, show that you're interested in them, do some research before, and make that the outcome. Because I tell you this, if your before matches where they are now, and your after matches their hopes and dreams, they will do anything for that pivot. They will do anything. They'll show up, they'll sign up, they'll watch, they'll listen, they'll call, they'll tell their friends. They will do anything for that pivot, that change. That, my friends, is how you tell a great story. But I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, I don't have a story to tell. I don't have a story. But it's not like other people's stories. It's not like the stories of these people who come out here and say how they've gone from rags to riches, that they just come in the business and, you know, literally in 2 months, they're a team coordinator, 3,000. I don't have that kind of story. But here's what I want you to know. Your story is perfect just as it is. You never have to have story envy. You never have to apologize for your story, okay? Because I know this. Ordinary stories are actually better than extraordinary stories. You see, ordinary stories are better than extraordinary stories because the purpose of your story is to connect. The purpose of telling the story isn't to wow and amaze them. Look how great you are. Wow, how much success you've got. Amazing. Wow. That is not the purpose. The purpose of telling your story is to connect with them. The purpose of your story is that they feel like you understand them. So you have the right story for you. It will attract the right people to you if you can get good at telling it. You have a story to tell. And there are other people in your situation who are waiting to hear your story. And give them hope that their life can turn around like yours. So friends, business partners, and guests, my desire is that you will apply this little training and you will develop and you'll write down a clear, concise, and a compelling story using this framework. Before, 3 points. Pivot, 1 point. After, 3 points that match with the before and the now, before and the after. But that pivot in the middle is very powerful. My desire is that you will share this story every single day, whether you meet someone, a friend, you're on a phone call, you're doing a Zoom meeting, or you're speaking on a big stage in the future. And by doing this, you're going to change many, many people's lives. Our motto in this business is that we rise by helping others to rise. I love Nexa Rise. It's such a wonderful company. And this industry of network marketing, I am so proud to be a professional in it. I've got a long way to go. I'm still learning. And all of you on this call, you're learning, but you're in the right place. You're with the right team, Team Rise. We're going places. We're going all the way to the top. And it's our desire to help every single one of you. We're committed to your success. And that's why we and the leaders, we organize these trainings week after week. So I hope you found that helpful, okay? So give yourself a round of applause for taking that in. And this can be a catalyst to help you be able to share your story in a really, really compelling way. So thank you for listening.